Welcome, welcome, welcome. And thank you for being here this afternoon and listening to Built to be Heard. This is a weekly live stream. I can't talk today. I've been talking. I've had several interviews and I just did another live stream. The theme of Built to be Heard is human first visibility in the AI era. Okay. So, again, welcome. I appreciate you being here. I'm so excited to be conducting the Built to be Heard series. And I'm doing this because I believe that extraordinary people doing extraordinary things need to be seen, they need to be heard, and they, quite frankly, need to be recognized on a more regular basis. Because these people that I see that we've worked with and continue to work with since 2014, they have a significant amount of talent and expertise. They're driven to serve, they seek to serve, they put their heart and soul into this. And sometimes they feel invisible or under recognized. So I want you to know that you do not have to become someone else that you've seen online or like someone else that you've seen online simply to be heard. Because I believe that the future does not belong to the loudest voices. It belongs to the clearest and the kindest and the most courageous ones. Now, if you've listened to some of these series recordings before, you'll know that the points that I'm speaking of today, I have brought up before. Okay. I believe that people need to hear these things multiple times to really see if it connects, if it's something useful, because I'd like you to be able to do something with what we're speaking about today. Maybe it just gives you, a little bit more encouragement. Maybe it helps you refine something or define something, because I too am here to serve. And I want to make sure that more thought leaders and founders and CEOs are able to be seen and heard and earn more revenue and recognition, and not feel like they are hidden. So the point that I like to start with is point number one, which is just because people don't see what's going on behind the scenes in your world, it doesn't mean that it doesn't matter. Okay. Because I think this is important to recognize. I owned and operated a private duty caregiving company for 10 years. And a lot of the clients that we served, they happened to have family points of contact, family members that I would interact with the care plan. And they were very high level executives. Okay. They were carrying a lot of weight on their shoulders, trying to juggle caring for sometimes their elderly parents, caring for their family members, their children, sometimes health issues, all kinds of things. And I know it's something that we don't often speak about, but I think it's something that needs to be recognized. And, my goal would be also, as I build our community membership out, that we are able to feel more comfortable speaking about those weights that we have on our shoulders, and maybe some burdens that we feel like, oh my gosh, I just hope that these are lifted soon, because when we keep them inside, that's not healthy for us. Okay. And I just want to recognize and say thank you, whether you acknowledge this in public or not, because a lot of things are done, behind the scenes, like I was saying. I just want to say, if you're someone that, has caregiving responsibilities, maybe for, a child at home that may have special needs, for elderly parents, for loved ones, maybe you have your own health problems. I just want you to know that you are not alone. And while we're building our thought leadership platforms, our companies as CEOs and founders, we are going to have disappointments in our business life and our personal lives, right? We may be reinventing ourselves after a breakup of a relationship, a divorce. We may be reinventing our businesses. And a lot of these internal, I would say, struggles or behind the scenes struggles, we choose to kind of keep or brush under the rug. But you see, that's not always healthy. So in the membership, in the community that I'm building, I want people to have an outlet for that. And, we have resources of people that can actually help with that, so that we are able to not get stuck in certain areas. Or the worst thing is, well, after I get my mother's living situation taken care of, then I will move on to the next stage of my business. In a lot of cases, that doesn't work. You know what I'm saying? Because maybe there are a lot of intricacies that have to be done to get your mother's living situation taken care of. Maybe she has early Alzheimer's, or she has certain health needs. And you putting your life or your business on hold is not usually the answer. The question is, how can you do it, or who can you involve, and what can you delegate so that you can also move forward with your business and your life, but also be providing what you want and the support that you want for your loved ones, because that's important too. It's so important. So just know, again, I'm saying thank you to you if you are quietly struggling or trying to juggle behind the scenes, because I want you to know that what you're doing, it matters. And if you think about a tree, because I love to use outside nature examples, if you think about the tree, okay, like a West Virginia pine as an example, because I'm from West Virginia. The roots grow in darkness, right, underneath the soil, long before any of us see that tree. So, what feels hidden or something that maybe you're not wanting to talk about today can actually become the story that someone else needs to hear tomorrow, that can give them hope. Point number 2, as you know, the world cannot benefit from the gifts that it cannot see. So I've talked about this old saying that I heard growing up, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? Well, what I really believe is the steady wheel, the one that shows up, that's always dependable, actually gets people home, right? So you can attract the right people in the right rooms if you figure out what your stance is, what your positioning is, and you go deep into that. Like this also involves, of course, staying in your lane with that steady wheel. And I have to tell you, like many of the other people that we've worked with, and perhaps some of you listening to this can relate, I too believe that if I simply worked hard enough, someone would notice. And my first job at AT&T was right out of college. And I remember thinking, why in the world would they tell us, I mean, AT&T corporate, that we need to keep track of our own accomplishments? Like that was so odd to me, because I thought if I keep my head down and I work hard and I exceed my sales numbers, someone's going to notice and I'm going to get promoted. And then, you know, it clicked. Like I was like, oh my gosh, they are so right. We needed to keep track of our accomplishments. We all need to be our own advocates. Just like, people that we've worked with have said, oh, I don't want to brag. Oh, it's not about bragging. It is about stacking your successes and your social proof. Because in today's world, we live at such a wonderful time, even though it's noisy sometimes. We live at such a wonderful time that we can actually share our successes in a professional way so that we have that credibility stack. It's not just about a tech stack, right? It's not just about a tech stack. We have to build and stack our credibility. So, getting back to what I was saying, I thought, oh, yes, someone will notice. No, that wasn't anybody else's responsibility. And AT&T taught us such a great lesson because then they said, everyone needs to have a girl file or that a boy file, or you can call it whatever kind of that a girl, that a boy, whatever you want to call it. Okay. But you need nowadays, it can be an electronic file, right? But you do need to stack your successes. And when I learned this, then I would put notes that I got from clients and besides my sales numbers and all of those, any and all of those accomplishments that I had. So then when it came to appraisal time, all I had to do was take out that file and fill out my form. So really this message is, please share it with people that are working in W-2 positions, no matter what stage of their career they're in, because if they keep that file, it will be that much easier for them to stack their accomplishments. And everyone should be doing that. And even if we are on our own, if we're self-employed, if we're building our own businesses or our side gigs, we should be doing this as well. And we should be patting ourselves on our back, both sides, because of what we're doing and what we're seeking to do. Okay. So just know that, you becoming more visible is about serving at a higher level. And I know that if anything that I talk about, if it connects to you and, prompts you to take a couple steps forward, I know that you are a servant leader. I know that you're seeking to serve. So the thing is, though, that hiding our gifts or like kind of keeping them behind the curtain isn't helping anyone. And as I was saying earlier, the story, the struggles that you may have gone through or you're going through can definitely become someone's hope tomorrow when you tell that story. And so, you know, what am I really saying? The world doesn't just need more noise, more activity. The noise and the activity they serve, like they're really distractions, right? So what I believe we need in the world is more people willing to share, their truth, how they can help, and be courageous to know that if you step out there in front of the curtain, that you are going to help the right people in the right rooms. Okay. Point number 3. You do not need to become someone else to be heard on a bigger scale. And I think that's super, super important because in today's world, it's almost like we have to put blinders on, like the blinders that horses wear in races, because we will compare ourselves to other people. I have done that, but that gets us distracted. Because if we think, oh, well, Susie is having luck talking about leadership, or Stan is having much success talking about his trip to California, whatever the case is, and then we try to do something like that and it falls flat, it's because we need to go deeper into the top of mind problem that we solve for the right people in the right rooms. Now, there's an old saying that I think you can connect with, and it's about still waters running deep. And I think that in today's noisy world, the depth of that matters more than anything. Probably more than any point in the world, when we look back in history. I think if we can clearly define what we're taking the stand for, the problem that our company solves, right? then we can go deep into that problem. That is also another definition of staying in your lane, not drifting into Susie's lane or Stan's lane. If you ran track like I did, you would know. And if you had a problem, sometimes I did not run straight, that if you don't stay in your lane, what happens is you usually end up falling. You usually end up getting tangled up with somebody else when you're in a running race. And that's not what you want to do with today's world. So you want to figure out who you're serving, the right people that you're seeking to serve in the right rooms, and go deep into that top of mind problem. So what I'm saying to you is you don't need to become necessarily louder. You just need to be able to be seen and heard by those right people in the right rooms. You don't need to become more like Susie or more like Stan because you're fine the way that you are. You are meant to be heard, and you're built to be heard in this world. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing. And we're not here to compete for attention. You know, we are here and built to contribute with intention. So the goal here is really to become the one of a kind, right? The go-to person in your category of expertise. And your greatest influence really begins with the moment that you stop like comparing yourself to others and you start just taking a stand for what you believe in. And it does require a lot of courage and confidence, and it's not easy. I'm here to tell you that it's not easy. However, it is so worthwhile. And, you know, in today's world, like with the community that we're building at the Happy Executive, you know, we can depend on each other for accountability. We can depend on each other to be sounding boards. Okay. So I hope that these points that I talked about today, I hope that at least one, if not all of them, connected with you and really kind of helped you maybe solve some of your own dilemmas. I just want to thank you for spending time with me today. And I hope that you'll join me for future conversations. And also, if you are a thought leader, a CEO, or founder that would like to be interviewed on the Built to Be Heard series, please do DM me so that we can get you scheduled because more people do need to see and hear you. Now, I will leave you with these words. The visibility that we have, the power to be more visible in today's world definitely gets us noticed. And the credibility that we're able to stack, it can get us chosen, right? By those clients that we're seeking to serve. We must build relationships in this AI world. And that's why I talk so much about human first, because there are absolutely tools that we can integrate and help you integrate into your business. However, we need to lead with the human first before we ever think about taking a human out of the loop. Okay. And then obviously the results that you create and you help to co-create with your clients, they get you remembered. You might be the only person that can solve your future client's problem. And like I was saying earlier, the story, the struggles that you've gone through, that can provide the hope for that client tomorrow. So just remember that you were built to be heard. There is no reason why you need to become more like anyone else. You just need to figure out where you're taking your stance and you need to dig your heels into that, go deep into that, stay in your lane, and you will find, or they will find you, you will find the right people in the right rooms. Thank you again for joining me today. And if there is a particular topic that you would like me to speak about, please send me a DM and let me know. I'm always open to listening and to serving. So thank you very much, everyone.